I want to revisit the last life ever lived and see if I can explain this without messing this up. This also kind of coincides with Carl Jung's awakening. You should check that out if you are an unconventionalist and you don't know what's going on and you feel like you're losing your freaking mind. That a lot of things things aren't what they used to be. That everything's changed. You're losing touch with yourself. You're losing touch with the passions and things you had. Things just seem like they're not really, like nothing makes any difference anymore. It's an awakened period. It's a growth period where you're kind of growing out of the spiritual realm, the physical realm, and the mental realm that you've been in for a long time. You're like graduating, and it's a very painful process. But I think I have a level of understanding of how we arrive here. And I'm going to say if reincarnation exists and you've been doing things for a long, long time, there's the physical realm, which we have here on the right side. Let's just say like a line. This is a physical level of understanding of our mental capacity to understand and our mental capacity of existence. And then we have spirituality, and we have, past lives, death, the other side. What's on the other side? Now, if some of us lived on the other side a lot longer, spent a lot of time there, it makes sense to me that as you progress from the past closer to the future, and you've done these multiple times, what happens is they start to merge. So a lot of your experience of living over and over and over again, this is where I mean the last life lived, is that it starts to compress. It starts to migrate towards each other. It gets to this point where, the other side, the spiritual world and the physical world, almost start to become to eclipse. And what could happen is this could definitely, life as an unconventionalist is like walking on a black sheet of glass over abyss, that you look down, there's no up, there's no down, there's no foundation to anything. But it makes sense to me that as you progress more, many lives lived, let's just say, and more attunement, if that's even a word, more acuity towards the things that are spiritual, the things that are out there, the Twilight Zone stuff. Slowly, the physical realm starts to have less and less significance, and it's the spiritual realm that starts to get more intriguing, right? You get bored of the physical being, the physical concept of self, of creation, a physical manifestation and creation in of itself. And as you start to progress more, all of a sudden the spirit world, the other side, starts to surpass the physical. You start to leave the physical behind. This is why the physical realm of our experiences of things like sex and joy, pleasure, anger, sadness, depression, all these things seem to mean less and less. And it becomes more about seeking out this, I guess, experiencing the unknown. This really goes far and deep. So you get to a point where you start to surpass the physical, and you're starting to leave it, and you're starting to leave everything behind. And this is where you'll notice the food gets boring. And it still gives you some sort of pleasure or something, but there's some sort of just like everything's missing something. And I don't mean this in a depressing way. It's actually a very joyful way. And I think this is the trajectory of oneself to possibly graduate life in its entirety. This could explain why some people don't need such things as the 10 Commandments. They don't need to be told, thou shalt not kill, thou shalt not steal, thou shalt not fuck their neighbor's spouse. These people have lived this. They've been around the block, let's just say. It's not their first rodeo. This is why they have this level of comprehension, but also could have this level of depression, isolation, misunderstanding, because there's something in most of us where if we really dig down to the root cause of it, we can't explain it, but we're like, there's something missing. We're never satisfied. We're always seeking more and more, and the physical realm doesn't really give you that fulfillment, right? It doesn't fill up that hole, that hunger you have inside yourself, because it's almost like the physical doesn't even exist. It's just this experience. If we can lend ourselves to that eye and the mind. I know this sounds far out there, but it's just the thought of mind of getting some sort of explanation of feeling lost, of meaninglessness. And again, not depression. It's actually kind of exciting. I mean, people think I'm fucking a lunatic. I mean, it's at least a few times a week, if not every day, where I actually think about my own death, my own dying. Am I going to die? At this point, I'm like, I don't know. I don't know. But this is definitely a migratory road, a pattern that I see that's leaving pretty much all human experiences as we know it. It just hasn't had time to accelerate because I've been too busy in the physical, I have a special needs kid. Diapers are very convincing. I got to change an 18-year-old's diapers. I got to make money for those diapers. I got all these things. But when I give myself enough time to do explorations, mind, thought experiments, these are the type of conclusions and kind of places that I arrive to, these horizons, these paintings of thought, these paintings of realizations. It's kind of hard to put into words because it's the unspoken language. It's the language of symbols, of action. It's like you can't really put into words the feeling of the wind on your skin. A lot of things we we just can't explain, to say the least amount, making wind the simple one. But hopefully that puts some in context. I would love to have discussions with people like you on this type of subject matter and see what you think about these things. That's why it'd be really nice if you subscribed, because once I get to 50 subscribers, I can go live. And then I can find, that's YouTube, by the way. YouTube is going to make me get 50 subscribers. And then I can just go live and we can kind of float around in a blank canvas with a bunch of thoughts, pigmented paint, if you will. Wouldn't that be fun? Anyways, I hope this gives some sort of direction. It doesn't really give a direction, but maybe a why. Before closing here, if I could think of a direction, I don't know, man. There's a lot of sayings, a lot of words of oneness. There's science that actually our DNA, parts of our chemical makeup are the same parts of shooting stars. I don't know how they can figure this out, but it's the saying in the physical realm is there's proof of that theory, I guess I would say. I find that very, very interesting. But would it be, what is the destination? The destination, I don't know. We won't know until we get out of this physical realm. Again, a vision dream thing that I experienced was little invisible people taking me on this tram ride through what seemed like outer space, but then there was vaguely hardly any stars at all. And as I was on this tram that didn't even exist, felt like I was sitting, but I was floating on this road, this path of some sort. There came what I thought was a door, and through that door I can actually see the earth and I could see the stars. I noticed that I was away from the earth, and I made them pause and made them rewind back and forth. And it was basically as we were passing, the door I could see the entrance to this porthole. And as we passed, it turned sideways. It became invisible. So I wanted to see through there and look at the earth and the sun and everything. So I kept making them rewind the experience. And they're like, look, we got more important things. We can talk about that kind of thing later. We arrive into this, what I kind of remember as some sort of cubic space. Not a room, just a cubic space that, again, didn't really even have walls until these beings shared with me of how simple the whole thing is, that it's the most difficult thing to understand. And I keep pondering on this, and I keep learning more and more when I think of this. And basically what they said is we create thoughts, experience. And when they said we create, the whole entire space that we were sitting in was occupied with geometric shapes, colors, and sizes that literally you could feel the pressure of it pressing on you. There was no, like in a ball pit, you know, it's when you were a little kid, you'd dive in the little pool full of balls. The whole space would just fill up. And they said, we create things. And then we discreate things. And the room, the space we occupied was empty, full, empty, full, empty, full. They said, do you see? And I said, I do. And they said, well, you don't. No, you don't. You need to keep practicing this. Once you build this muscle, then you will understand about where the destination of what everything is. And what I'll say right now is, and is not. I don't know. I don't know how to, I can feel it, but I can't express it. I can't articulate it. I think some things are just left to wonderment, to imagination. And the biggest one for me in these experiences is not to lose myself into fascination, to be fascinated by these things, to be more observant and more coherent instead of just like some sort of weird acid trip or something, you know. By the way, none of this is induced by drugs. I don't do drugs. I'm just mentally out there. So hopefully that explains some stuff. And if you guys want to have conversations, let's do it, man. The Unconventionalists.